Greetings.
Should I put a little more growl into it?
Okay, I came back to, we spent 48 hours making puppets.
Making and breaking hearts, Ellinger.
It's not that kind of podcast.
On a practical level, I have to remember what I was saying on a practical level.
We should have a safe word. Armageddon!
I guess we're maybe semi-proud of that.
Welcome to Hide and Create, your online writing workshop.
Welcome back to Hide and Create, your favorite writing podcast. You know it's true. Your hosts today are Moses Siregar, Joshua Essoe, Jordan Ellinger, and I am Diana Rowland. And this week we're going to be talking about health and the writer. Because, you know, when you think about really fit and healthy people, you don't automatically think, hey, writers are really fit and healthy people. There's a bit of a disconnect there. Probably mostly because writing tends to be a very sedentary job, a very solitary job. And so there does tend to be a bit of a reputation for writers to be not in shape and not in the best health, perhaps using substances that aid to poor health, such as drinking cigarettes, that sort of thing. But I think that paradigm is shifting with the younger crowd coming in and being more aware of health in the future and not wanting to be one of those writers where the fans are saying, God, I hope he doesn't die before he finishes the series. I'd like to think that there's a little more interest in health along with the writing career. So, Joshua, what are your thoughts on health and writing?
Well, first point is, and most important is, you are your most valuable asset. So you've got to be proactive about your health because, like you just said, Dinah, this is a very sedentary job, both editing and writing. You spend just all your time sitting on your butt. So I'd like to talk about sitting position. First of all, if you're going to be sitting for a long time, you should do it in the way that will least negatively impact your body. So, you know, keep your head up, keep your head back, your chin tucked, your ears and your shoulders and your hips should all be aligned. With your neck, don't cradle a phone or anything like that in your breaks or, you know, let alone while you're writing. Don't talk on the phone. Need I say that? Elbows, keep them at your side. Your sides slightly more than 90 degrees bend. Keep your chair adjusted to the right height so that your legs are just slightly more than 90 degrees with your feet flat on the ground. And it'd be great if your chair had some sort of adjustable arms and cushion with some lumbar support. You want your eyes level with the top third of your screen. Because that'll not only help with your eye strain, but it'll also help with your neck position, and it'll work to prevent headaches because of those two things. Make sure that if you need to wear glasses or contacts, that you're wearing them. Your keyboard should be about the same height as your elbows, with your wrists slightly bent, and not up, slightly bent down towards the keyboard. If you have them bent up, you're going to get horrible carpal syndrome, like I've got right now. Keep your mouse next to the keyboard so that it's easy to reach in the same alignment of your arm. And if you have a document holder, you want that to be the same height as your monitor.
Wow. So you've had some issues with RSI, I would take it.
Yes. Yeah.
I was about to say, anyone who's ever experienced repetitive stress injury suddenly gets really, really careful about their ergonomics.
Yeah, very. My wrists, especially my right wrist, I am, what do they call it when you're extremely flexible? You've got a little bit too much give in your joints.
Really flexible.
That's what you call it. You call it really flexible. Hypermobile. That's what it's called.
Okay, there you go.
My wife chimes in with the rescue.
I have wrist issues too. One thing I learned from kind of a local health food store was to take silica supplements. If you have carpal tunnel type symptoms, silica will strengthen whatever the heck the carpal tunnel thing is. I've actually hurt my wrists a couple different ways. One was kind of manly, the other one not so much. And now you're really curious. But
This could go in a number of directions.
yeah, this is going to be good. But no, I remember one time. Do you guys ever see the show Frontier House? It was like a PBS special where like this family goes and lives in like as if they lived in Montana in like 1880. Yeah, I got inspired by that and I started like chopping wood, and then I really like hurt my wrist doing that. And then the second time was last year. I was playing Wii basketball. And I swear I hurt my wrist really bad playing Wii basketball.
That is really not manly at all. That's
I know. And I admitted to this on Facebook, and it was funny how many people came out of the woodwork and said, I actually really injured myself playing my Wii too. And yeah, I really injured myself playing Wii. Like, apparently a lot of people screw themselves up playing Wii. So yeah, be careful with that.
Did you just say people screw themselves up playing Wii?
Yeah. People injure themselves.
Playing with their Wii.
People injure themselves playing with their Wii, and
We should clarify, a Wii is a game system. Okay?
Yeah.
Just in case.
But I do have to be very, very careful about my wrists, and so I learn like kind of exercise things where I kind of like grab the hand, pull the wrist kind of straight out, and then kind of pull it down, and it kind of just stretches that whole area. And I do the silica thing, and I really try to be aware of like not overusing one wrist than the other, and cautionary tale, don't be me, like take better care of your wrists and all that good stuff.
Yeah, on my end, it was a shoulder. In fact, I had a really bad year last year with various things, but the shoulder was the worst one. Ended up getting to where I just couldn't move. I had frozen shoulder. I had to get shots in it a couple of times, and it was due to poor ergonomics and just overwork and a bunch of things. So now I pay very good attention to my ergonomics. I also shift position a lot more often, take frequent breaks, try not to sit for more than about 30 minutes, and then I get up and walk around and go do something else. I also alternate between sitting and doing a standing desk, or sometimes with a walking desk. I have a good quality treadmill, and basically set it up with some boards across little arm thingies, and just set it at a really slow pace, but it helps first off, helps with getting moving and just changing position where you're not doing the same motion for hundreds and hundreds of hours in a row. And it really, once you've had that excruciating pain, you really start being pretty careful. Jordan, have you had any problems with ergonomics or anything like that?
And I want to say too, we're talking about health today too, not just ergonomics. So.
Right. Yeah, we're going to move on to that, definitely.
So, I have repetitive stress injury from when I was a banker, typing numbers really quickly in my wrists. And for me, sometimes I use the mouse in my left hand. I alternate because it turns out the trackball it does hurts and stuff. And there are different mice you can use, ergonomic mice, but I haven't really found them to be that useful. What I wanted to say about health and fitness as the show's resident mercenary, before I was a full-time writer, I made a conscious decision to sacrifice my health for my writing. So the time that I would have spent going to the gym, I wrote. Every minute that I had, I would feel guilty going out for a walk because I could use that time for writing. Right? So I gained a little bit of weight, and I'm in the process of losing that right now. I wouldn't advise that for the long term at all, but now that I'm a full-time writer, I'm trying to lose the weight because there is a fair amount of evidence that says that good-looking authors make more money. Right? It's like that for everything, I guess, like every profession.
Well, there's
right?
also the thing that you can take those 30 minutes and write with them. But then you're going to lose that down the road when you're having to go to the doctor more often and when you feel like crap. Or like with me, it was pretty much the same thing where I basically stopped exercising and gained some weight, and suddenly I couldn't work. I had to try and use voice recognition software, which really is nowhere near as effective. And so, yeah, you might save some time at one point, but then lose it on the other. So aside from repetitive stress injuries, there's stuff like you were just saying, gaining weight and you're just not feeling as good. What have some of y'all done as far as squeezing in exercise, making time to get some exercise in so that you don't gain all the weight and start hurting and stuff like that? Josh?
Well, it's interesting. I used to be all about the gym, and I would go, multiple times a week, and I felt great. And then my career shifted, and I started writing and sitting down a whole lot, and my exercising kind of went down the drain. Trying not to say a bad word there.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously diet and exercise are taking a hugely important role in a sedentary career like this. So what I'm trying to do now is, optimally you should take a break, a 5-minute break or so every 30 minutes or so. And if you can't do that, then at least every hour. So what I try and do is every hour I get up and walk around, do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, do some squats. But what I really am trying to work on is getting up, taking a running break at least twice a day. So, I mean, it only takes 10 minutes to get up, get ready, run a mile, and get back and start working again. So,
You're a fast mile.
I don't feel it's that fast anymore. I used to be able to do like a 6.25, 6.5 minute mile, and that is not possible anymore. But yeah, so I'll take a break from editing. I'll do like a third of my quota, get up, go run, come back, do another third, get up, go run, come back. And that is helping a lot. I also never take escalators or elevators if I can avoid it. I used to try and find the most optimal way to do things in a single trip. So what? I mean, so I wouldn't have to walk as much? I mean, that seems so ridiculous now. What's wrong with a second trip? So, little things
it's all the little things, yeah. And it's
Yeah.
And I could also point out, you don't have to go out and go for a run, even if you just go out and walk, even if you go just going out and walking around the block once, it's just a quarter mile or something like that. I started doing CrossFit earlier this year, which is a pretty intense sport, but my first time there, of course, I'm sucking wind, I'm gasping, I'm wanting them to call 911 for me because it sucked. And it's demoralizing in ways because it's hard to finish the workout. And one of the coaches said, well, you know what? You lapped everyone who stayed at home. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I did. So even if you're just going out and walking to the end of the block and back, you're still lapping everyone who's still sitting on the couch. And it's baby steps. It's little things. About a month ago, I was so proud because I came back from this you have these little 400-meter runs, and I came back and, gasping breath, I said, I actually ran the whole thing. I didn't have to stop and walk once. And so these little baby steps. But I'm a lot like Josh. I used to be an athlete. I used to be a cop. I used to run like 7, 8, 9 miles. And then I became a writer and became a slug. And so now trying to find a way to balance that. Moses, what about you?
So I've always been someone that didn't really have to exercise a whole lot. Like I have really fast metabolism. Apparently, I eat like a pig. I mean, I eat more than anyone I know, and I just generally don't put on much weight. Now that I'm 37, that is starting to change a little bit, and so I'm actually having to exercise, which sucks. But here is possibly a piece of advice, something that has helped me to get out and get more exercise. I got a dog. I got a dog who we got him when he was about maybe 6 months old, and very athletic, very energetic dog. And if we don't walk him for at least a half hour to an hour every day, he terrorizes everyone in my home and destroys everything. So it works out really nicely that I have to kind of go out and take him on a walk. And luckily I live in this kind of neighborhood in the mountains and the pines where I can go out and let him run around and go back and forth. And then, of course, as I've mentioned in other episodes, that is what led me to starting to do dictation, because I was walking the dog and I said, well, I should try to use this time to write. And so now I actually walk and dictate and walk the dog all at the same time. So, yeah, it really is awesome. And so the dog thing was really incredibly good for me because, I needed something. I'm not someone who's in the habit of actually doing a whole lot of exercise. I'll do like sit-ups and push-ups, and I'm just not a big exercise person. Some people are, and I'm not. But the walking thing is great. It's really good, and I think that's really going to be a helpful thing going forward. So there is one other health thing that I did that you guys might find interesting. This actually kind of led me to being a writer, strangely enough. I was getting to the point where I was getting sick more often than I used to. I'm generally kind of healthy, knock on wood, didn't get sick a lot. And then I was just getting sick. There was this one winter, I remember just getting sick a lot. And so I got some blood tests done, and it showed I had mild anemia. And I said, well, that's weird. And then I talked to this naturopathic doctor, a friend of mine, and she's like, well, men don't usually have a problem with the iron exactly. You probably don't need to get more iron in your body. You might need B12. B12 is necessary for assimilating iron. And so she hooked me up where I started injecting B12, into myself. And that actually, I think, is what led me to become a writer, because I started doing these B12 injections, which B12, if you don't know, is so even if you eat red meat, which I didn't at the time, and I still don't, but even if you eat red meat, you can be deficient in B12. It's really important for a lot of functions. It gives you a lot of energy mentally, physically.
It's like a super vitamin, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, and actually that's one thing. That's one of my little tricks is before I write, I'll pop some B12, even just a little B12 lozenge, because it gives me more mental energy and more mental focus too.
That's very interesting.
Before I do anything, like a phone conversation, like I should have popped one before I got on the phone with you guys, but it's like vitamin C. It's water soluble or whatever, so you can't overdo it. Really, you can't hurt yourself by doing too much B12. So anyway, I started doing B12, and I did start getting healthier, and I started getting all of a sudden passion back. Like I had kind of gotten into this boring, lull in my life. I wasn't really inspired to do a lot of things. And all of a sudden, I was feeling passion. I'm feeling energy. I'm like, wow, I feel like myself again. And I said, you know what? I've always wanted to do some storytelling thing. I'm going to start writing a novel. And I did.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Right.
Yeah,
That's very, very interesting. Water does the same thing, affects your mood. If you're not taking enough water, you will get headaches and dehydrated, but it also, and people don't know this as much, it'll also greatly affect your mood. If you're constantly not getting enough water, you'll feel, like Moses was just saying, unmotivated and so forth. So,
yeah, because I read something very recently on the internet, which means it's true, that if you drink a glass of water first thing in the morning, that one of the reasons you're groggy in the morning is because you're dehydrated. And so if you just drink a full glass of water first thing in the morning, it will really perk you up. I've been trying to do that, and I think it helps. Of course, then I chase it with a bunch of coffee, but still, it can't hurt. Water's always good for you.
And then diuretic, right on.
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard that you could eating an apple will have a similar effect to drinking coffee. Like that, you'll get energy from that too.
Yeah, exactly, totally.
But it's not coffee. I like coffee.
Hydration is really important to me because for a long time when I was 16 to 18 or something like that, I would get migraines, right? In fact, all the way up to 27, I would get horrible, mind-numbingly painful migraines. And one time I went to the hospital because I was green. I was literally green. And all they did was they just gave me an intravenous saline drip.
You were just dehydrated?
They hydrated me.
Wow.
And that was like this huge thing. So I actually don't get migraines anymore because I make sure to stay hydrated. And that's tough. I have to manage that because I drink all of the Coke Zero. So like all of it. Like right now on my desk, I have 8 empty cans of Coke Zero sitting in front of me.
They're so good, though. They're just so good.
Yeah.
Clean your house, Jordan.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, that's from today and yesterday. So, I drink a lot of Coke Zero, and it turns out you don't. The problem with Coke Zero is that it is that zero, right?
Yeah, there's nothing. It's just nothing.
Yeah. So when you're putting it in your body, it's like you're not putting anything in your body at all, right? And that's a problem because instead of putting healthy water in your body, you're putting Coke Zero in your body. So
right.
you don't get. It takes about as much water to process what's in Coke Zero as is in the can. So you don't get hydrated from it, right? Like it's zero. It's zero. I mean, when you see the Coke Zero, that's the thing. So I have to make sure I have a huge water jug at my desk, and even if I'm not thirsty because I'm full of Coke Zero, I make sure to drink, right?
And see, then you get lots of exercise because you have to go to the bathroom a lot. So that gets you up out of the chair.
I do. I worried my boss thought I was like a drug addict at first because I went to the bathroom so much.
Speaking of vitamins, again, writers are solitary. We live in our little caves. Vitamin D, and you can do vitamin D supplements, but it's not as effective as all you have to do is go outside for 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day gets you the vitamin D that you need, and it makes a huge difference in mood and health and everything else. There are some current theories that flu season is not because it's cold in the winter months, but because people are inside and they don't get as much vitamin D. And again, it's one of these. It can't hurt. Go outside for 10 minutes, roll up your sleeves, and just welcome the sun and get your vitamin D going.
Costco sells a lamp for about $150. It's a blue lamp, and that gives you vitamin D.
Really?
You can sit under this blue lamp that Costco sells for $150.
Well, of course, you live in Canada, so you don't, there's no sun there, right?
Yeah, no. In fact, we have one of the highest MS incidents in the world, multiple sclerosis.
Uh-huh.
Many people think it's for that reason.
Yeah, vitamin D. In the winter, it depends on where you live. If you live, I've heard people say around the latitude of Atlanta, which is the same latitude as LA and Phoenix, around that latitude or lower, you can get vitamin D in the winter. I think I've heard another report on that says you can get it a little higher than that. Let's say go up to the border of like Colorado and Arizona, somewhere around there. Colorado and New Mexico, or Arizona and Utah. Up to about that point, you can get some vitamin D in the winter, particularly if you go out in the middle of the day and you get some sun at that time. Mm-hmm. That's the best time to get the vitamin D. It's like right when the sun is at its highest. In the summer, everyone can get vitamin D. It has to do with the angle, with the sun and the earth. But yeah, if you live at a higher elevation, you should supplement. You should probably be supplementing vitamin D. And
it helps your mood. I mean, there's seasonal affective disorder is a lack of sunlight. So health and mood just go so hand in hand, which then of course goes into the creative process and everything else. And one of the things I wanted to stress also is you don't have to go out and be a jock. You don't have to be a fitness nut or anything like that. But there's and we could sit here and argue about certain, health theories and, whether fat's bad or carbs are bad or stuff like that. But I think that most people can agree on it's good to get up and move, and it's good to maybe not eat as much sugar. If you can avoid sugar or just, in moderation and get around and move, you're really going to be doing a lot better than some of the, old guard of science fiction and fantasy who have a reputation for not being as fit, and hopefully we'll live to finish our series because
and this has a direct impact on your productivity. I mean, if you have a lot of sugar, a lot of starchy stuff, you'll find if your diet is like that, you have lower energy, you have lower motivation, you'll get depressed more easily, whereas I mean, last night this happened to me. I was hungry. I was up late, and I wanted to grab some munchy thing, some cookies or something like that. And I said, you know what? I have an apple and a banana sitting upstairs. Why don't I go get those? And I went and I grabbed those and I ate those. And I'm sure I feel better today because of that.
And also, you went upstairs.
There you go. Yeah. Bonus.
Speaking of nutrition, a trick that I've used for quite some time is on Sunday, I'll make 5 lunches.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's very good, because if it's there, if it's ready to eat, then you don't go searching for something else to eat.
Exactly, and no thought involved. I don't just stare at the cupboard and think, well, I'm kind of lazy right now, so cookies. Like if it doesn't matter if I'm lazy, well, I have one of these pre-made lunches, right? And it also saves you from having microwave burritos, which I was going through a phase where that's all I ate. But the pre-made lunches are the way to go.
With me, if the junk food is in the house, I'll probably eat it. So, just I can't have it in the house.
Yeah, similar to Diana's advice about marrying well, like marry someone who eats well too, because my wife, I mean, she hooks me up with these intense green smoothies from like the local, farmer's market and all this stuff, and like I'm way healthier because I'm married to her. She's feeding me good stuff all the time. So.
Very cool.
Yeah, well said.
Okay, so we know that it's important to be healthy and fit and all that stuff, but what are some of the repercussions of if you don't stay healthy and fit? Joshua, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I did a bunch of reading in preparing for this show, and so I learned some interesting and rather awful things about sitting for long periods of time. And the negative, it's bad for you. That's all you need to know. It has pretty negative health repercussions. So brace yourself for what I'm about to say, because it pretty much just sucks a whole lot. Okay, so first, sitting for long periods of time increases your risk for diabetes and blood pressure, increased blood pressure. No, it doesn't increase your risk of having blood pressure at all, just increased blood pressure.
You want blood pressure.
Yeah, you want to have some blood pressure.
I recommend it.
Obesity, and also non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And here's the worst part, even if you clear time for daily exercise, what matters is the amount of time at one time that you sit. A study in the American Journal of Epidemiology found that men who sat more than 6 hours a day are linked with an 18% higher risk of death. Just for anything. It just increases your risk of dying. But it's worse for women. This is a slightly different comparison, but women who sit 6 or more hours a day, nearly 40% more likely to die over a 13-year stretch than those who sat for 3 hours or less.
Yeah, it sucks. It really does.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You have an increased rate of colorectal cancer or something as well. I'm editing an anthology called Fantasy for Good, which is raising money for colorectal cancer research. And one of the primary reasons we're doing that is because it's a cancer that disproportionately affects writers because we sit all the time.
Huh.
Yeah. And also, if not just writing, but if you're sitting in front of the TV watching shows and stuff, a study from the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that every hour you sit in front of the TV, this is really, really screwed up, you can slash your life expectancy for nearly 22 minutes.
Wow.
Isn't that awful? So, like, watching 6 hours a day, right? I think that presumes a typically sedentary behavior, like that's what you do. But if you watch for 6 hours a day, that'll cut your life expectancy by at least 5 years. Yeah, I think that really that speaks to people who indulge in that behavior a lot, rather than just once every couple weeks or once a week or something like that. But it's something to keep in mind.
I'm going to stand up now and listen.
I'm quitting Game of Thrones.
Sitting may be responsible for more than 170,000 cases of cancer yearly. Breast and colon cancers being the most influenced by rates of physical activity and inactivity. According to an article that I read, a little bit of walking can go a really long way. For many of the most common types of cancer, it seems that something as simple as a brisk walk for like 30 minutes will help reduce that risk. Also, researchers have found that putting pressure on certain body parts, and we'll all love this, i.e. your bottom, can produce up to 50% more fat than usual. So
Jeez.
that's why, yeah, right?
So unfair.
If you see a rider with a big butt, this is why. It just shows you that they're a hard worker.
Wait, are you saying if you sit on your butt, the butt gets bigger?
Yes. By putting pressure on certain parts of your body.
Your body wants to pad it up.
Exactly. Exactly. It's kind of like creating a fat callus.
Wow.
So in a bid to try and explain why sedentary behavior causes weight gain, scientists believe that the precursors to fat cells turn into flab, and that flab ends up producing more flab. So, prolonged periods of sitting down is also bad for your butt.
Wow.
They call it mechanical stretching loads. What else did I learn?
Otherwise known as big badonkadonks.
Big badonkadonks.
Rider badonkadonk. Okay.
And the last big bad point is that it increases your risk of heart attack, especially for men, obviously. So women, you're more likely to just die, but we're more likely to have a major heart attack. Men's Health covered a study in the Journal of Medicine and Science and Sports and Exercise that said, it was researchers from Louisiana found that people who sit the majority of their day are 54% more likely to die of a heart attack. They found that sitting was an independent risk factor for serious cardiovascular events. So this sitting stuff is starting to seem way more dangerous than crab fishing.
Wow. Okay, so being a writer can be pretty darn dangerous. And so does it help did the study say whether it helped to take frequent breaks, like get up every 30 minutes or anything like that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, get up every 30 minutes is ideal. But if you just can't pull yourself away every 30 minutes, then at minimum try and get up and walk around for 5 or 10 minutes every hour.
Okay.
And an interesting little tidbit, running and walking will burn the exact same amount of calories over the same amount of distance.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting too. It just takes longer. So if you walk a mile, you're still burning, 60 to 100 calories, depends on your metabolism. You just get it faster if you run it. Get it over with. Get the pain over with faster.
Yeah, exactly. and here's another interesting tidbit that I remember is that I think this was from the Mayo Clinic. The muscle activity needed for standing and all other movement when you're not sitting, it triggers an important process related to the breakdowns of fats and sugars within your body. So when you sit, that process stalls out, right? And you'll start to get writer's butt.
We have now made an official term, writer's butt. Okay.
Writer's butt.
Nice.
Well, that's really interesting.
We're going to be famous.
I think Josh wins. wins this episode. All right.
Yes, no prize.
None at all. All right. So I think we pretty much established that writers have a strong predilection to being unhealthy slobs, but we can do something about it. Getting up, take frequent breaks, standing, walking, that sort of stuff. All right, let's go around and get some closing thoughts on the whole fact that we're all unhealthy slobs struggling against it. Joshua, do you have anything else?
Sure. I think I'd like to hit it up one more time that if you have headaches all the time, it's a strong possibility for the reason of that is your dehydration. That was a huge problem with me. When I was training to be an outdoor guide, I spent 2 months out in the woods, and part of that training was to get my WFR, Wilderness First Responder. And I learned the most interesting thing was that all of those headaches that I had were simply because I wasn't drinking enough water. And what's interesting is that if you have one of those big headaches, you take some water, that headache will disappear sometimes in moments. Like literally, it's like magic. It's amazing.
Okay, so I'm going to stand up and I'm going to drink water. Water! Right. Moses, what you got?
When you eat something, look at the label. If you see high fructose corn syrup or corn syrup, probably shouldn't eat it. If you see partially hydrogenated oils, probably shouldn't eat it. There are some amazing healing herbs. I mean, our society is so toxic. The world is so toxic right now. You've got to do things to heal your body so you're not, so you stay healthy. Some things to add in a raw form to your food whenever you can. Garlic, ginger, turmeric, cayenne pepper, aloe vera. These are amazing natural healers. Just add them to your diet. If you are concerned about your heart health, cayenne is really, really good for your heart. I have learned a very important lesson about cayenne, however. You do not cook it. You add it.
Yes, because then you will gas your house. Yes.
Well, that too. It's actually really bad for you if you cook cayenne pepper. You add it to the stuff you're eating after it's already cooked. You don't cook it. You get the powder. You add it after the fact. Trust me, you don't want to know the story on that. But it's bad if you cook it, and I learned that the hard way. But I'm concerned about my heart health as a guy. I add cayenne pepper to freaking everything I eat, and it's good. So, stuff like that, little things like that add up and really help you out.
Jordan, what you got?
Well, I think part of health and fitness is addiction, and I have a lot of experience with that. When I was younger, I, had an episode where I experimented with drugs. I was a pack-a-day smoker for 7 years, and now I drink a lot of Coke Zero.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand with writing a lot of times.
Yeah, a lot of writers are addicts, but I think you need to realize that however much you feel like your addiction is your muse, maybe alcohol is your muse, as has happened with a lot of other writers, you can't treat it like that. You need to find some other healthier substitute to take as your muse. The long-term health effects of alcohol, and even the fact that generally when you start, it may be an inspiration for you, right? But gradually, it's like a heart monitor where it goes up and down, and then there's a line kind of in the middle of that heart monitor. And when you're high, that high point is above the middle line, right? Mm-hmm. But as you go on, those peaks and valleys kind of generally get lower, and they generally just keep following a downward slide until even your peaks are below that center line, that middle line, right? So you might get a short-term burst in creativity from whatever substance. In a long term, even if you feel like you're still getting a burst of creativity, and maybe you are, because it's one of those peaks that we talked about, it will still be under that middle line. Mm-hmm. So you need to not be addicted to things and seek help for it.
Very good.
Awesome.
Right. There was one of y'all, I can't remember who it was, said you are your asset. You are your only asset. Whoever that was, you nailed it. I mean, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to write. And that's kind of the whole point of this podcast, is how to make you a better writer, hopefully. I had a bad year last year, like I said, with just mobility and health. And basically this year, with the prodding of my sister, who has become very healthy, I've really determined to take it in hand and lose the extra weight, and it makes a big difference. I've lost 17 pounds at the beginning of the year, and I can feel it. I can feel it in my back and my knees and everything else. And so hopefully I'll be able to lose the rest of it. But yeah, it's hard when you're sedentary, and now I don't ever want to sit down again because Josh has scared me. I have a phobia of chairs now.
Yeah, I'm freaking out over here.
Well, you've got your standing desk on your treadmill. That's
yeah. I try and use it now more, but I'm going to use it even more now because it's easy. It's easier to sit down. But boy, that's
I've mentioned before I write standing up now too.
Yeah, and you also take walks while you dictate, which is amazing. I just yesterday got this amazing little thing. It is it's a little computer holder. It's a laptop desk holder, and it's made of aluminum, and it's got 2 legs on each side, and each leg has 3 legs to it. So it's got 3 adjustable points on the legs. So it can adjust to all different manner of positions to allow me to, if I don't want to sit, which, frankly, lying down is better than sitting. So I can lie down and actually perch the computer over my face and have my arms and everything and my neck in perfect alignment. And I can also put this on my desk and have a standing desk out of it. I mean, it's a great, great little device. So if you write all the time, look into buying something like this. What is it called? It's called Laptop Desk Multifunction Portable Desk. That doesn't really sound helpful. Comfort Fashion. Here it is. Furino, F-U-R-I-N-N-O laptop desk.
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to close out by saying also writers, especially science fiction fantasy writers, tend to like gadgets. There are a lot of really cool fitness gadgets out there. I have this a Nike Fuel Band. It's about $100, but first off, it's a really cool watch. It looks really futuristic. But it also, I get these Nike Fuel points. So my goal every day is to get 2,500 Nike Fuel points. And it's just for moving around. And I found that if I'm near the end of the day and I only have 2,100, I get competitive with myself and I want to keep my streak going. So I'll go and walk around the block so I can get my 2,500 Nike Fuel points. So, everyone has a different way of approaching health, but as long as you have an approach, I figure that's the important thing. I think it's time for us to wrap this up. I hope everyone is now standing up and drinking lots and lots of water. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all next week.
This has been another episode of Hide and Create. The show is produced by me, Jordan Ellinger. The site is edited by Joshua Essoe, and your co-hosts have been Diana Rowland and Moses Siregar. That music that you're listening to was written by Jason Donnelly. We can be reached at writingpodcastonline.com, where you can ask us questions and suggest topics for future shows. Thank you for listening. Now go hide and create something.